It is the Boneyard Podcast, and we're back, and with Corey Campbell. And Coach, you have your game face on already as we record this on the Monday before the Friday night game at Forney. Great job of scheduling there. You waited till Forney climbed into close to the top 5 in the state, then you got them on the schedule. When we scheduled Forney, they were in our district back in Kaufman, Class 3A. All right, now they're Class 6A. Are they? Okay, 6A. So they are Class 6A, and we will all take a trip to Forney coming up. But first of all, great to have you back.
Great to be here.
Last year was a lot of fun. I mean, that was quite a season. You know, just when we were really enjoying beating up on Highland Park, they've escaped the district and they've returned to the comfy confines of Class 5A. But catch us up a little bit on, you know, just the putting this roster together. We're coming off the scrimmage, and I'll get into. We actually have a few scrimmage highlights to share as we talk. I mean, shockingly, you think people just want to see us, but sometimes maybe they'll want to see some highlights, and, and some of that will flash up on the screen as well. But we'll be doing this all year. We do have, for this week, a presenting sponsor, and I'll share some information on that as we move forward. But what, Coach, as you started to kind of put things together, like when you're in a scrimmage situation like that, are you pretty much set at this point, or are you like the Cowboys were for their final? And of course, you don't have the massive roster cut that the Cowboys do tomorrow, but are you still looking at things, making like almost last minute decisions on, okay, who's truly on the varsity, who's on the JV? What's happening at this time of year?
Yeah, if we go back to spring ball, you know, anytime you graduate, 35, 40 seniors that walk out the door. We started to put that puzzle back together during spring football. And you start to answer a few questions. Competition was really, really good in the spring. We had a lot of fun with it, a lot of new faces. And then as you get into the summer, you know, credit to our staff and our kids, we had a great summer. And then ultimately, as we started fall camp, you know, I would say about 80% of those questions are answered by the time you get to fall camp. You know, that's why they let Class 6A have spring football, just because of the sheer numbers that we have in our program. I think we're around 225 to 250 kids, 9 through 12, that play football. And so to be able to evaluate those guys, spring was really important. Carried that into the summer and then into fall camp. And then we probably still had 5 to 7 questions as far as the number of players that we really wanted to see in the scrimmage. And it's such a small sample size that, you know, we tried to iron out the kids that we needed to look at. And then as far as a scrimmage, kind of our philosophy is, you know, our ones didn't play a whole lot. And we really tried to get those kids in that were on that bubble, so to speak, and tried to evaluate them best we could. We had to make some tough decisions. Those are not always final decisions. The younger kids, you know, man, we want them to play football. The way you get better at football is you need to play. And so we've got some sophomores that are going to be on the varsity. We've got some sophomores that we really want to play on Thursday nights and play on the JV. And as they come along, you know, we may make some additional changes as the season goes on. But we want those kids to be able to have the opportunity to play. That's how they get better.
All right, and I did want to say, Coach Campbell, welcome in. Rogue Media Network is our production company this year, based in Waco, and Corey Dickman is the head of that, but Mike and a lot of our friends there. We got Ben with us today doing a nice job, and so we've loved our partners in the past, obviously.
Sure.
But I mean, as you can see right now with all the cameras that we're looking, we've really stepped up our game a little bit, and also at least on this week's version of the Boneyard Podcast, brought to you by a familiar name, and it is Holly Development Company. You've heard that Holly, perhaps that last name, quarterback from last year, obviously has now gone off to Fordham, and so Tripp, I know it's fun to watch I saw one of your other players is at Tulane now, and that's a neat thing when they go off. But I did want to say that Holly Development Company focused on industrial development through DFW and the rest of Texas. And so any commercial brokers that are listening to us out there with land to sell or clients in search of new industrial space, this would be a good time to sign up for something like that. Please reach out. There'll be a new website launching soon, and if I know Stephen and Molly, it'll be a really nice look. And we have a lot of good marketing people here, don't we? Between the Jenkinses and the Hollies, and my goodness. But you can reach him at Stephen, and that's with a PH, at Holley, HOLLEY, DEVCO.com. That's Stephen at HolleyDevco.com. And after Stephen thought about it for a long time, like what would be a great name, what would be, kind of put his marketing brain to work, in the end he named it after himself. And so I admire that. Certainly something I've done a few times. Now, okay, so you got the teams together. That was fun the other night. A lot of people were out there for that scrimmage, and I was trying to sneak some water in there. Was told that was not available to me, that option. But as we got in there and we sat and it was fun, because like you say, you don't want to show too much, but there was at least one deep throw that Harrison made. And let's start there. We always, and the quarterbacks probably get too much blame. They probably sometimes get too much credit, right? But this is a young man that's been in the program. You had him as a slot receiver when Trip Holley was playing quarterback. You've talked about him in the past. You love his toughness. Now he gets his chance to be your starting quarterback. And I can't help but think back to Mitch Colson, who was one of the tougher kids you probably ever had, because they're similar height, maybe not built exactly the same, do some similar things, both tremendous runners. Tell me about Harrison's arrival to this point and what you expect from him.
Yeah, I think for me, when you talk about Harrison Day, the thing that comes to mind is he's just a winner. For us to evaluate quarterbacks and the situation our program is in right now, to snap it to a guy that we feel like not only that can handle the game physically, mentally, but he's just got a mentality that rubs off on the rest of our team. I'm really excited. He hasn't got a lot of snaps at that position because of what you're alluding to with guys like Mitch Colson and Trip Holley and Caden Dotson and all those guys that have come before him. But now it's his turn, and we're super excited about the season, what's to come. We were pretty vanilla the other night in the scrimmage, as most people are. It's not something that we just do. And another part of the scrimmage is when we're evaluating, we call things certain times just to put that specific player, in a situation where we get to evaluate on video. So some of the game is called in the scrimmage, so we can evaluate. Not just like an offense taking advantage of a defense on a Friday night. It's more about we want to evaluate where we are.
Yeah, and there was another reason I wanted to be at the scrimmage. I didn't talk to you much about it, but the Coppell quarterback is committed to my alma mater. He's going to Baylor, and I thought that would be interesting to watch him and then see your defense against him. And so that was good news, bad news for me. Second snap of the game, he flings one out toward the sideline. Y'all pick it off. And I thought, oh goodness, where are we going? And he had his moments, but
Sure.
Aiden Webb is committed to Oklahoma State, really good looking. In fact, I looked down there and I'm like, got a little Merton Hanks look to him. Merton, of course, the famous 49ers safety who played at Lake Highlands. But Aiden's kind of, I don't know what he was wearing or whatever, but he's got a little Merton neck going. Merton had that long neck and everything. And then number 5 was the one who went out there. Last 2 seasons, boy, you've really had some, and obviously you had a player go to the Ivy Leagues from last year that was a great cornerback for you. But some teams like to build from front to back, right?
Sure.
You all have had a lot of talent in the secondary, and I think this year is no exception, is it?
Yeah. I mean, we're definitely blessed at the safety position right now with Aiden Webb, obviously returning, as you're referring to, the Oklahoma State commit, and then Lloyd White.
That's who had the interception.
He played 7 or 8 ball games last year as a sophomore. phenomenal athlete, can really run. And so those guys are going to kind of, along with Sherrado and Odalami, they're going to they're going to lead our defense. As we talked a while ago about graduation, we've got a lot of kids. We have 6 or 7 corners, but not many have Friday night experience. And so, ultimately what we do, when they're younger, they play both sides of the ball. When they're a freshman and then on their JV. And then as they get ready for Friday nights, we start to figure out where they can best help our team. And right now, behind those safeties, we needed a little depth, and that was part of the scrimmage the other night and part of the summer and part of the spring. And then there's going to be some young guys. We have some sophomores. Our freshmen went 9-1 last year, so there's a few sophomores that are going to play on Friday night and get that experience as well.
All right, but we don't want their heads to get too big. We can't really talk about the sophomores too much. Although one of that spring game or something, there's a Spangler kid. I was kind of like, whoa, this kid, and it's nice. I mean, like you say, maybe every year you're like, I don't want to play too many sophomores. But when you have sophomores that can make plays,
sure,
you need to get them on the field.
Sure.
And you have, there's different parts of the team I want to talk to you about. But what about your skill player? We just talked about Harrison Day. Let's stay there. Running back, you've built around the run game the past couple of years, and obviously that was extremely effective, and you had a great one and a record setter. I mean, I guess Deontay ends up as the all-time
sure,
leading rusher at Lake Highlands. So that's big shoes to fill, but Christian Rhodes steps into that role, and I have to say, at least from the stands, good size, seems to hit the holes hard, and seems to. I worry when I see a taller running back that, like, are they going to be like run 2 up?
Sure.
But boy, he looks like he's got some talent for sure.
Yeah, Christian, played on the JV last year. He does have a big frame. He's 6'2", 195. Can run a little bit. We're excited about what he brings to the table. We do have some depth behind him as well. And Franklin Evans, who's another one of those sophomores that we talked about. But we're excited about Christian. He just hasn't done it on a Friday night before. And so, these first 3 or 4 games as we get into the season, we're going to learn a little bit about our football team, not just at the running back position, but, in those positions where guys just don't have much experience. We're going to learn about who we are. And some teams are going to expose us in certain ways. That's going to provide us, some abilities to fix some things that we need to fix. That's why you play these non-conference, these preseason games, and then ultimately being ready for J.J. Pierce to open up district. And so as you graduate a bunch, like I mentioned, you got to fill yourself out in those non-conference games and kind of figure out your identity. But we're excited about Christian, Harrison. We have quite a few other skill players that we want to see.
Mm-hmm. And one player that you had mentioned to me and I saw him last year, and I would remark, I don't know if I ever said this to you, I'm like, who is that tall kid down there, and like, why isn't he ever get on the field? And he was hurt, and I'm talking about Jordan Hutchison, who lined up for the other night and was starting at wide receiver. Now, I mean, he, just from looking, I don't know what y'all have him listed as, but looks like he could be, in the 6'3" range or something like that. What could he bring to the offense? And obviously, if you get he and Leland and whoever else you rotate in there, I mean, it seems like you could be pretty dynamic.
Yeah, with Leland's experience returning, obviously that gives us, in our offense and learning what we do, that's been really good. And when you're talking about Jordan did have a knee injury last year and really didn't play very much at all. He's gotten back healthy. We're excited about what he can do. He can run a little bit. He runs good routes. He can go up and catch the ball. Just another player in our program that just really hasn't done it here at Lake Highlands High School. And so excited about the opportunity for him to get involved, getting in Leland involved. You mentioned Christian, There's definitely some of that, and I think we'll learn a little bit more again who we are as these preseason games roll through.
Other than your talented secondary that we talked about, like what part of the team do you think you'll have to lean on early? A lot of times, especially young teams, you'll say, well, the defense is a little ahead of the offense. That happens sometimes. Where is the strength? I watched your right tackle the other night not only block people but then kind of sit on them. So I think he's a through the whistle guy, which you love to see. You got a young left tackle. Where is the kind of the biggest strength of your team early, do you think?
Yeah, that's a great question. You're mentioning King David Abiabuchi, KD. He's a returner, played all 12 ball games last year. He's definitely going to be a foundation of that offensive line. Now, we don't return much experience. Timothy Billups Jr., who is going to play center for us, he played a little bit last year, so there's not a whole lot of experience there. When you look on the defensive line, Michael Odolami returns, and he's really the only returner that we have. So it's kind of sprinkled in. I think offensively, we're gonna be simple early and lean on Harrison just with his experience and understanding what we do offensively. And then I think on the back end, those two safeties along with Ryan Sherrado, I think they're gonna kind of be the stability of our defense till we figure out how everybody else comes along.
All right, and it's just it's hard to believe. I mean, you work and you have this whole summer and you work toward it, and then all of a sudden it gets here, and it happens. 7 o'clock on Friday? We're not going to push that back for heat. Remember a few years ago, like everybody was freaking out, and we pushed game, and it's like it's always hot this time of year. I can't remember why that particular year we were reacting in such a but
with the UIL, they do such a great job, and then our district leadership in the athletic department with Leslie Slovak, I mean, there's just protocols that we have to follow, and then ultimately, I was talking to Jessica just this morning. Hopefully we get to go outside today. We haven't been outside a whole lot because of the heat. Football's played outside, so ultimately we want to get out there. But that is part of what we have to deal with, and hopefully after the first couple weeks of the season, the temperatures kind of fall off and we're able to get back to status quo. But yes, Friday night, 7 o'clock, Forney, Texas. We're gonna face an unbelievable football team that went to the semifinals last year. They're ranked in the top 10 in 6A, and they've got some really, really good athletes. Their running back Osborne, I think he rushed for 2,300 yards last year, 40 touchdowns as a sophomore. He's I think he's the number one running back in the country, very highly recruited, just going to be a junior. So he's kind of their staple. They had a move-in quarterback, Nelson Peterson Jr. From Sunnyvale. That's Adrian Peterson's brother, ironically.
Much younger brother.
Much younger.
From Palestine, Texas, that Adrian Peterson.
Yes, sir. And so he's their signal caller. And he's 6'3". He looks like a little Lamar Jackson back there. 6'3", 190, and can run, track guy. Got two really, really talented inside linebackers. So it's going to be a huge test. I mean, I told our guys when we scheduled this, way back last season, they joke in the office. They're not talking to me right now because I scheduled Forney. But you know what? At the end of the day, we welcome the challenge.
Yeah.
We know what we're up against in going against this team. But I think it'll say a lot about us Friday night about 10:30 about where we need to go, what we need to do, and really it's in game 12 last year we played Prosper, and in game 1 we're going to play another foe. They may not be as good up front on both sides of the ball collectively as Prosper was.
We talked like about 7 D1 players,
but their skill is much better.
Yeah.
And so, we're excited. We're excited about the opportunity to go out Friday night and kick it off and see where we are.
All right, yeah. Scheduling interesting deal because I mean, y'all go to those where they announce the new districts and the redistricting, and I'm sure there's all sort of almost like being at the stock market. You're comparing notes with people and putting a schedule together and all. But I would like you to consult me before you put some of these people on there. I will be reaching out to the UIL to just make sure this Peterson transfer was above board. And of course, our resident historian, Glenn Gant. By the way, that'll be fun this year, separate of Glenn, but we'll get that Unsung Hero Award going again. Sure. I don't know if this is kind of our season preview, so we don't have to have one this week, but be on the lookout for that because people love that. And speaking of unsung heroes, I saw some of your players get in there, some of your backup players. Boy, you had a big sack. I mean, I think from a former unsung hero, Will Liggett came in there and had a nice sack, and he was a recipient either a year or two ago.
Yes,
so
sir.
I thought that was fun to see. And I think I love it when some seniors decide, hey, you know what? I may go back to football. And I don't know. I just remember in junior high, I had Mason Parsons hanging out over at the house and knew he was a football player back then, a hard hitter. And now I see him running around out there again.
Yeah,
so that's kind of fun because he became more of a baseball guy.
Sure, great to have some of those guys back, like Mason Parsons, who has an opportunity to really contribute this year on defense and as well as special teams. And it's fun when those guys, when they come back around to your program, and we look forward to that.
Yeah, we've got our NIL up, so we're able to get in more. The player you were, and Glenn Gant obviously is our historian. I thought we'd have more Jackrabbit history because I grew up down there. I'm from Kaufman. The Forney players were constantly coming down trying to date the Kaufman girls, and so we were frustrated about that at the time. But Javion Osborne, who you mentioned, and this is Glenn Gant giving us some background. I think I heard him on the mic the other day. Have y'all given him some kind of position here? 5'10", 185 pounds, fast, Javion Osborne, and he is a preseason Dave Campbell's All-State running back, 2,204 yards last year. So, and then as you mentioned, Nelson Peterson Jr., which is, I kind of remember the whole story about Adrian's father and all that, but 9-3 at Sunnyvale as a sophomore quarterback, and then made the move over to Forney. Heard that they had some good academics over there and wanted to head that way. They run a 4-3 base with linebackers Landry Hopkins, Lavion Riggins, and then Xavier Young. And so a tough team that went pretty deep in the playoffs last year, ran into a monster Alito team that basically wins state every year. But now they strap it on. And again, like you said, you can look at it like, oh, why are we playing Forney to start? But maybe, y'all don't have it rolling as much as you might. They might not have it rolling. So you're going to look at both ways. I would think not that you need ideas from me, but I do remember watching Lake Collins over the years. One thing that's a huge thing early in the season that you try to control, and of course you get in the season, but is ball security.
Sure.
Is that something you just have really been zeroing in on to start the season?
Yeah, I think we met this weekend, and when the offense and defense came together, one thing that we've got to make sure we do is control the football. We can't turn it over. We need to keep it out of those athletes' hands as much as possible. Obviously it's going to happen, but we don't want to give them free chances. And so with the ball security is huge Friday night. So we don't put it in Peterson and Osborne's hands because again they're super dynamic. And they lost to Alito last year in the semifinals. With a lot of those players returning. And so, we talked about it as a staff. We had a scouting report this morning with the offense. I was in that meeting, and, we did talk about, it's super important to control the football and to protect it.
Okay, and last thing, that you're up front on the defensive line, Peyton Nicholson, I've kind of seen him grow up and is not, such a nice kid, and I kind of think of him still as a real young guy, but now he's a junior, and some of these guys have come out of the weight room in a big way, and now, he's lining up a defensive end, making some plays. Odalami, who, obviously he's going to be a big player for you. Who is along that defensive line that you're expecting big things from?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned them both, really. I mean, Peyton, has had a great off season. The weight room's been really good for him. Odalami played 12 ball games last year. They're going to kind of anchor that group. We've got some younger kids coming along. We're going to rotate a little bit more on the defensive line probably than we have in years past, especially until we can figure out some of those staples and who they are. And that goes for a lot of positions, but we're super excited about Michael bringing that leadership. We talk about leadership. Our captains this year, I believe we had we have 6 seniors and 2 juniors in that captain's role. King David Abiabuchi, offensive line's a captain. Harrison Day, Leland, Germany. And then we have Webb and Sherrado, Odalami, Lloyd White, and then as you mentioned, Peyton Nicholson. And so, we're going to lean on those guys I told the kids the other day, I don't care what business you're in, if you're running football teams or, whatever you're doing, adversity is going to hit you in the face. And we're going to lean on those captains when that adversity hits, that we've got some stability in our program. We've got a standard that says, hey, okay, here's our adversity. This is what we're going to face, and we're going to meet it head on.
All right, and your coaching staff, most of the guys back. One of them I didn't recognize because he had dropped about 50 pounds, and I started quizzing him on kind of what he had done. You got a new special teams coach, and comes with a great pedigree and with a tremendous background, and that's got to be pretty exciting.
Yeah, I was able to hire 2 new coaches this year, Thomas Wells, and Coach Wells and I have a common friend, and kind of got his information. We started talking in the spring, and he was at Michigan State. He was a special teams analyst at Michigan State, came down. He's been a great addition. And then Chris Nelson is going to coach our slots this year. And those 2 guys, I can't say enough about our staff. They've been working their tail off all summer, and then getting into fall camp, and then the preparation. This was our first work weekend. The hours that those guys put in, super blessed just to be a part of that group. And they've done a good job, and excited. I tell them all the time, we're going to go on a journey together. And I'm super excited to go on that journey with those guys.
All right, this is going to be fun. And thanks again, Holley Development Company, and focused on industrial development throughout DFW. And I was thinking, as I was talking about Stephen, I thought about 3 or 4 more people. Like Deuce Black's on the team. Mike Black has been a part of our podcast and a sponsor in the past, and that's really cool. And there's just a lot of people over the years that have poured into this program. So if you're watching this and you would like to be a part of it and give money back to Lake Highlands, we'd love to have you be a part of it. But appreciate Molly and Stephen Holley, and appreciate you, Coach. Hope you had I'd like to say you look rested. You look kind of like you've been staying up late preparing for this game, but hopefully you had a couple of nice vacations this summer. And your kids, you got really cute kids. Is your son playing tackle yet? Where are we in that process?
We're not to tackle quite yet. We got 1 more year, and then we'll see.
Okay, already kind of an option quarterback. He's kind of a pocket.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, it is the Boneyard Podcast. And please enjoy our new background. That's really shiny. Just for the Boneyard Podcast,
sure,
you purchased that.
Yeah.
We'll thank whoever, Wildcat Club, everybody else is part of it. But thanks to, and is there any of your team moms or anybody we need to, because Wendy, to me, she's always someone that helps me get the podcast out. Sure. I always mean to thank her publicly, and that's Wendy Lucas, who has a son on the team, Blake. Okay, Blake Lucas, and anybody else, because we've had some great moms over the years.
Yeah, and we talk about it all the time. The support here is phenomenal. And Bryn Volkmer, who she kind of runs things around here, so to speak. And then Wendy Lucas and Libby Nicholson are the football parent advisors. And behind the scenes, I can't tell you the amount of work. I mean, it's crazy the amount of work they do, from getting numbers and meals to what time, what time we're going to eat, and, how we take care of the coaches on the weekends, and, and the support that comes from the Wildcat Club. So super blessed, and just to be a part of working alongside those guys.
All right. At some point, we'll announce the varsity cheerleaders for this year, and the captains, and we'll really focus. We probably need to get them in here for that. But Coach, great to be back with you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for doing this.
Thank
This
you for
has
having
been
me.
such a fun tradition that with Stephen Holly and others have been a big part of this, and so we'll have a great year. And win or lose, we'll have fun on the podcast, although it's always more fun, isn't it?
Yeah, if we win, you bet.
Coming off a win. So we will be reacting to the 40 Jackrabbits in the Lake Highlands getting it on Friday night, and we'll have that to you probably by Tuesday. These will air Tuesday, and you can find them on Spotify, Apple. We'll have a new YouTube channel, and Stitcher, anywhere else you want to put them, Coach, any platform you can imagine, we will share that. So thanks to Ben for being up here today and doing a great job filming us. For Rogue Media Network and Coach Corey Campbell, I am Matt Mosley. Good night from the Boneyard.
We are Rogue Media Sports.